Well, thank you for all of those who've joined us online already, who are starting to introduce yourself in the chat. My name's Reverend Dr. Mae Elise Cannon. I'm the Executive Director of Churches for Middle East Peace. We call ourselves CMEP. Churches for Middle East Peace has been around. Next year, it'll be 40 years. And our work began in the Middle East, primarily focusing on Israel and the Palestinian conflict. But we work in the broader Middle East as well. And as we talk about our priorities, we talk about the sustainability of the church. We talk about elevating voices from the Middle East. And we talk about advocating for justice and peace, that our US policies in Washington, D.C. Would advocate for human rights and justice for all people living in the Middle East. And today, I'm very pleased to have with me guests visiting us from Iraq. And I'd love to introduce you, and we'll start a bit of a conversation. And as we discuss later on in our time together, we'll have the opportunity for question and answers. So I'll start by introducing the Reverend Canon Faiz Basheer Jerjes. In 2004, Father Faiz joined St. George's Episcopal Church in Baghdad, once it reopened after the fall of Saddam Hussein's regime. From 2006, he began working towards reconciliation among the diverse religious and ethnic groups in the city, establishing St. George's as a center for the promotion of human rights. In 2007, he helped found a clinic inside St. George's compound to offer free medical services to the surrounding community without regard to religious or ethnic background. We're very honored. Thank you for being with us, Reverend Canon Jerjes. We're very happy to have you with us. And translating for him, and also one of our guests, esteemed in his own right, is Sinan Hanna Karakash, who since 2014 has worked primarily with Christian refugees who fled the invasion of ISIS, Daesh in Arabic. In March 2015, Sinan became the project manager for the Christian Missionary Alliance, a large multinational mission-focused church. And in 2016, Sinan began working as the country director for International Christian Concern. This ministry, working collaboratively with nonprofits, NGOs, including SWIC, has helped hundreds of Christians throughout Iraq through crisis relief, training, and small business development. In 2017, Sinan moved from Erbil to Baghdad and has spent part of his time working with Canon Faiz while continuing his ministry in the Nineveh Plains. In northern Kurdistan. So there's much more we could say about these esteemed leaders. Welcome. We're so glad to have you with us, and much appreciation to the Episcopal Church for introducing us, to Stand with Iraqi Christians, who's also sponsoring this event, and of course to International Christian Concern. So shukran katir for being with us. Father Faiz, would love to hear from you. What is the reality for Christians in Iraq? I had the privilege of being there in 2019, and I was amazed at the continued devastation and the realities affecting communities. I was in Erbil, I did not go to Baghdad, but can you talk to us about the reality of the Christian community in the place where you do ministry?
يعني المسيحيين first of all thank you for you. المجتمع المسيحي بدأ بالتناقص من سنة 80 ولغاية هذا اليوم.
The Christian community started declining since 1980s till today.
وذلك بسبب ظروف البلد اللي يمر بها كان من مرحلة إلى مرحلة ومن فترة إلى فترة.
That's because of the atmosphere of the country and the conflicts that we were passing through from time to time.
المسيحيين دائما يبحثون عن أرض يتوفر بها السلم، يتوفر بها الأمان، يتوفر بها الاستقرار.
Christian always look for a land where there's security, there's peace, and there's stability.
ويعني العراق بسبب الحروب أصبح يعني مكان غير يراه المسيحيين إنه غير مناسب أصبح له.
And because of the wars in Iraq, Christians seen the country that is not that's inappropriate country to be in.
ولحد هذا اليوم يعني الأحداث تعمل ضد يعني ضد استقرار المسيحيين في العراق.
Until today, the situation is going in the wrong directions and for Christians in Iraq.
يعني قبل يومين شخص أخبرني أنه خلال شهرين أو ثلاثة 200 عائلة خرجت من العراق للأردن.
2 days ago, I gathered, someone told me that just in 2 months, 200, more than 200 families immigrated from Iraq to Jordan.
وهي مؤشرات خطيرة يعني جدا.
And those are very concerning signs.
من 1.5 مليون مسيحي إلى 150 وربما أقل حاليا.
From 2.5 million Christians to 100,000 Christians and maybe less.
يعني هذا العام إذا حبيت نتكلم ندخل بالعمق في هذا الموضوع أم نعبر على سؤال آخر؟
That's just a general overview. If you want to go more in depth, or do you want to ask question?
Sure, maybe I'll just ask 1 or 2 follow-ups, and then Sinan, will have you introduce yourself and some of your work before we open it up to the audience. I was amazed when I was present in Iraq in 2019 about how many Christians had been displaced, but how many had not returned. And so when I hear you talking about numbers of 2.5 million to, only 100,000 or so left, are Christians still leaving and not coming back? Where are they going? You mentioned Jordan. Are most of them staying in the Middle East? And how can we help them stay? What are some of the reasons why they're leaving?
وكيف إنه نتفادى الأسباب اللي تخليهم إنه يغادرون.
المسيحيين لما يخرجون من العراق جزء من المسيحيين خرجوا من بغداد ذهبوا لإقليم كردستان.
Part of the Christians who left Iraq, well, part of them they left Baghdad and went to the northern part of Iraq, to Kurdistan.
لكن يخرج من العراق ده يروح إما إلى الأردن أو إلى تركيا يعني أكثر شيء هذول البلدين أردن وتركيا.
The majority of the immigrants they go to Jordan and Turkey where they can apply for asylum to the west.
لحين أن يأتي دوره عن طريق اليونايتد نيشن.
Until they get their turn through the United Nations and immigrate.
فيهاجر بأي بلد يعني يتم تقريره إليه يعني.
And then he immigrate or she immigrate to wherever he is accepted to.
لكن يعني ذكرنا بعض الأسباب اللي خلت المسيحيين أن يهاجرون، والأسباب أكو أخرى أيضا رئيسية، هي مثلا أنه المسيحيين الآن يشعرون بالعراق أنهم مواطنين من الدرجة الثانية.
We mentioned some of the reasons for immigration, but also Christians in Iraq, they have this feeling of being a second-class citizens.
ذلك بسبب بعض التشريعات والقوانين اللي موجودة حاليا في القانون العراقي ما تخدم المسيحيين.
That's because of some of the legislation that we have in the Iraqi law that's against serving Christian communities.
على سبيل المثال مثل قانون أسلمة القاصرين.
For example, the law of Islamization of the minors.
سبب آخر أنه المسيحيين لا يستطيعون أن يحصلوا على أي درجة وظيفية مهمة في البلد.
Another reason could be that Christians have not been able to get any senior position at the government.
ومن الصعوبة جدا أيضا أن يحصلوا على الدرجات الوظيفية العادية أيضا في البلد.
It's also difficult to get even normal position in the country.
بذلك يشعرون أنه ليس لهم أي أهمية بتواجدهم في هذا المكان.
And that's how they feel that they don't have any importance within this society.
إذا قلنا كيف نمنع هجرة المسيحيين من العراق،
If we say how to prevent further immigration from Iraq,
يجب حل هذه المشاكل، وهي مشاكل سياسية تتعلق بالأحزاب والحكومات، أنه يوفروا الأرض الصحيحة الخصبة للمسيحيين.
then we have to solve the problems that's leading to immigration, and those problems are geopolitics that's related. The government is not maintaining a good atmosphere for Christians and a good land for Christians to stay at.
ربما يبدأ يشعر المسيحيين أنهم يعني حقيقا في هم يعيشون في وطن.
So they can feel that they are really living in a country where they are citizens.
أو يشعرون بالوطنية للبلد اللي
they can feel their membership and citizenship within the country that they are in.
إذن هناك إشكاليات يجب أن تعالج في سبيل إقناع المسيحيين ببقائهم.
And that's why there are problems that need to be solved and fixed, so Christian can have sustainability in Iraq.
ونتوقع لسنة 2030 لن يبقى مسيحي في العراق.
My expectation is that until 2030 there will not be more Christians in Iraq.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Thank you for sharing that reality with us. I was remiss when I made the introductions of saying where you're located, that you're actually in Washington, D.C., that you're having meetings and talking to people about the current realities. What role do you think the American government plays or should play that might be constructive in addressing the disappearance of Christians?
يساعد على استمرارية الوجود المسيحي بالعراق ويحد من هجرته.
يعني الحكومة الأمريكية، يعني أنا أريد أكون واضح وصريح، هناك يعني خطأ من قبل الحكومة الأمريكية.
I need to be clear and honest. The American government did a mistake.
الحكومة حررت يعني العراق من الدكتاتورية، وأصبح العراق صحيح اليوم عراق آخر.
The U.S. government, yes, it's true. They liberated Iraq from the dictatorship, and now we have another Iraq, a new Iraq.
لكنها لم تكمل المشوار للنهاية، تركت الأوراق لنا يعني مبعثرة وغير واضحة يعني.
But they stepped out in the middle of the way and they left us just a mess documents to deal with.
هذه البعثرة هي خلت أحزاب ليس لها وطنية، ليس لها انتماء للبلد، لا تكترث بسكان البلد أن تسيطر وتحكم، وبالتالي احنا كلنا نصير تحت يعني سلطة هؤلاء الأحزاب.
And that chaos that was left lead that parties who doesn't have any kind of nationalism sense come to the control and decide our destiny, and as a result of that we lost the control, we lost the dream country that we wished.
يعني ربما حتى السلاح المنفلت اللي هو حاليا تمتلك الأحزاب في الشوارع، هذا أيضا يشعر من خلال هذا، يعني هذا المسيحي يشعر بالخطر من وجوده وسط هذا السلاح.
Even the armed militias that they are in the country, maybe Christians feel the threat of that armed militias and armed members going on within the city.
سوء الصحة في البلد، هذا يعني يشجع المسيح على الهجرة. سوء التعليم في البلد أيضا يشجع المسيح على الهجرة.
The bad healthcare system, the bad educational level, that's also another motivation for immigration, looking for better education and healthcare.
يعني ربما إذا احنا إذا يعني صعب أن نقول احنا كشعب نستطيع أن نحدث هذا التغيير.
Maybe we as people, as civilians, maybe we feel that it's very hard for us to make that change.
لكن ربما الولايات المتحدة كحكومة تستطيع أن تضغط على التشريعات وعلى الحكومات العراقية بتعديل هذا المسار وبإعطاء مساحة أوسع للمسيحيين.
But maybe the US government can advocate on the Iraqi government to redirect this path in the right way and that the Christians are given more space.
هذا يعني حل من الحلول يعني المؤكدة، يعني مؤكد أنه ناجحة.
That's one of the successful solutions that I have.
That could be pursued. And Abuna Faiz, I've heard wonderful things about the church and the ministry that you lead, about the way that you don't discriminate in terms of who receives services, and the fact that you stay. And you stay not in Kurdistan and not in northern Iraq, but that you're in the heart of Baghdad. And so what motivates you? What compels you to not give up hope, to continue in your service, but then also in your service to be so welcoming of your neighbors, regardless of their religion or background?
يعني أنا أعتقد هذه يعني الرسالة هي رسالة المسيحية اللي علمناها إياها المسيح إذا ما استذكرنا قصة السامري.
And that's I think that's the Christian message that we all may recall when we remember the Samaritans story.
يعني هكذا يجب أن نكون، وهي هاي كيف أنا أنقل محبة الله أو محبة المسيح للآخرين، أنقلها بعدم تمييزي، أنقلها بالرحمة، رحمتي على الآخرين، أن ينالوا هم جزء من رحمتي، جزء من محبتي، جزء من اهتمامي. هذه هي البشارة يعني.
And that's the good news of Bible. When I reflect the love that I receive from God, and people get a portion of that, I reflect the peace that I get, I reflect the forgiveness I get from God to people, and that's the evangelism. That's the good news.
يعني هذا مرات هذا ما يخلينا نتكلم مرات بكلام غير جيد عن بعض يعني رجال الدين، لأنه ما نشوفهم محتوين لهذه العناصر أو هذه النقاط، وما محتوين للآخرين.
And that's what sometimes leads us to talk negatively about some of the clergies, because they are not inclusive people. They are not including the society.
يعني كما تقول الآية يرون أعمالكم فيمجدون أباكم الذي في السماوات.
As the verse says, that they will see your actions and they will glorify the Lord in heaven.
هذا ما أنا يعني تعلمت عليه، وما أنا يعني وضعت نفسي أن أعيشه يعني.
That's what I am. That's what I've learned, and that's what I dedicated my life for.
مساعدتنا للناجيات الأيزيديات سببت صدمة للأيزيديات، كانوا يقولون لماذا الكنيسة تساعدنا؟
The help that we present to the ISIS survival women who were under ISIS captivity created a shock for them. Why would a church help us?
قلت لهم هذه هي المسيحية.
And I told them this is because this is Christianity.
مساعدتنا للمسلمين إن كانوا شيعة وإن كانوا سنة، معالجتهم بشكل مجاني في مستوصفنا. دائما يقولون انظروا أنتم ماذا تفعلون وانظروا المسؤولين عنا ماذا يفعلون.
Always not discriminating at the clinic by receiving the patients from multi-faiths and offering them medical services for free. They always say, look what you guys are doing, the amazing job, and what our leaders are doing outside this place.
يعني هذه الرسالة.
That's our message.
Well, that is beautiful and encouraging and inspiring, and it moves me. It moves me to hear your faithfulness, and I hope that you know that we, as an organization, stand with you. And I'm moved by those who are on the call as well. I see people here from Pennsylvania and Michigan and Chicago and Wisconsin, and Newport Beach and Washington D.C. I'm in Washington State, so we have people all over the country who care deeply about the work you're doing and the ministry you're doing. And so thank you for your faithfulness in that regard. And we'll have more time. And for those who are present with us, do be thinking of questions that you would like to ask. I'd like to move to you, Sinan, for hear from you in terms of your work. You were a project manager with the Christian Missionary Alliance, but now are working with International Christian Concern. Are you based in Baghdad or Erbil or both? My understanding was that you, please.
Yeah, just an introduction. In 2014, when ISIS invaded Mosul and the surrounding area of Nineveh Plains, where there is a majority of Christians, I moved to live from Baghdad to Erbil. And I lived there for 2 years before coming back to Baghdad again by end of 2016. Well, currently I'm based in Baghdad. It's my main responsibility is at St. George's to be the priest assistant, helping Father Faiz and assisting him in accomplishing all the great work that's going on in the ministry at St. George's. But to my surprise, we kept doing the good work as well in the Nineveh Plain and in the north, helping the Christians to build back their economy and to enable them to stay. So it looks like it is two various regions, a church and an NGO, but I think we do have the same goal, which is the sustainability of Christianity. So through the church, what we do at the church, and part of my role is to assist Christians to be active within the community by serving the surrounding community without discriminating the community. And then on the north, what's going on, and with all the projects doing with International Christian Concern, Stand with Iraqi Christian, and all the businesses that was built or rebuilt in the like 5 years ago, like since 2016, but also then Stand with Iraqi Christian in 2017 and on. I think the amount of people that was benefit of that, they were able to stabilize, because honestly people are not staying because of what we are doing, but at least we are helping that someone who wants to stay, but he doesn't have reason to stay, just give him a reason to stay. Just help him to stay.
And is the primary issue religious persecution, or do you think it's economics or the politics or the combination of kind of all of the above in terms of, we've heard lots of reasons for why Christians are leaving. And one of the things we've seen in other parts of the Middle East is that Christians are often able to get visas to be able to leave. And so there's, a privileging, if you will, sometimes for supporting Christians leaving in a way that can be devastating to local Christians in the Middle East. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So in March 2017, that was the beginning of the liberation of ISIS. 10 days after the liberation, where there's the area, the village of Karakash in the Nineveh Plain, was still under the military control, and there was very few civilians there. I had the opportunity to go there, and I kept going there at that time for many times, twice a month. And we always ask this question: what is the main needs for you to stay? We always listen to that. Security first, and then job opportunities second. And as a church capacity, as an NGO capacity, I don't think we can do anything security-wise in the size of, because this is a government role. Well, we can advocate, we can do that, but at the end, in practical, that's a long process to do that. But I think what we can do is maintaining job opportunities, is providing services. At some point, we ended up also doing relief, not because we want people to be dependent, but that's what is available at that time. There's no job because there's no people. So since that moment, we decided, okay, we cannot do anything about security, but we can do something about maintaining opportunities to people through maintaining to them redevelopment of their businesses. That's what they used to have before ISIS. Well, mainly because the sustainability of Christianity in the country is very important as a core for us. Part of what we are doing in our time in the United States at the moment is looking for resources to bring it back to the church in Baghdad, so the church can have sustainability. We can have a lot of partners that's interested in the programs that we do, if it is education or the health or the redevelopment in the north. But it's not easy to find a partner that is interested in supporting the church. So they are supporting the priest who is overseeing all of these activities that's going on at St. George's. And the reason behind that is, okay, we have 100,000 today, which is like a portion from what we used to have in the past. Let's stick with it, try to keep it, because we all know how difficult it is, and it took decades to enter a country where there is no Christianity at all. And like starting all those missionaries going there, and then the government start applying like restrictions on missionaries. So what we have today is we are not in the best position, but at least we need to keep them. That's an early sign of the disappearing of Christianity from its original land. Iraq has been a Christian country from the first century, since St. Thomas came and evangelized Iraq and left from Iraq to India. So keeping Christianity on the original land of Christianity, it's really very important. So what we are doing, if it is at St. George's or it is in the north, and by the way, we were licensed to have a church in the north as well. Well, yet we don't have the physical building of the church, but at least we are licensed. And in a longer term plan, we will be working the same in the north on maintaining on all of these with in cooperation with our partners, if it is Stand with Iraqi Christian, or it is any groups that share the same vision with us. And we do have kind of a common area. We have the same interests on these kind of things.
In terms of American political involvement, after, you mentioned 2017, and after ISIS, I don't want to say was defeated, but after ISIS was, removed from the area, I know that the American government, Vice President Pence, and his office invested $300 million or something in that amount, roughly, towards, my understanding was Christians in Northern Iraq, Kurdistan. Did that investment make any difference? Has the American government paid any attention to the realities affecting Christians since then?
So I know about part of that. To be honest, I've heard about the number, which is a massive number, that If it went to the Christians there, that must be every Christian is settled. But to my surprise is that I never heard, even though with all my involvement with people there, I never met someone who was benefited out of that massive amount of money that was supposed to go towards Christians. So
that's what we heard as well on the ground
just
when I was
really
there.
answering that, because $300 million,
Yeah.
that's a massive amount of money. If that went towards Christians in Iraq, we would be in a very different, and church would never be looking for resources and supporters like ourselves, at the moment and on the trip, but also other groups, but also even the individuals and the Christians and the families. We've been trying to redevelop in businesses in much less scale of these kind of amounts. If people have that, I think they would have been in a very comfortable, at least economically.
You mentioned 100,000 Christians remaining. Is that in Baghdad specifically, or are you talking that's the total number?
So we don't have clear statistics. It's not 100,000, it's around 150,000, and that can be divided for all Iraq. Not only Baghdad, not only the north, that's all of Iraq, including the Nineveh Plain. I do have some sort of approximate statistics for Nineveh Plain, it's becoming like 25,000, which is just before ISIS was 70,000. In 2014 was 70,000. Now it's around 25,000. But like the total population form around 150,000. There's no clear statistics because there are 14 denominations in Iraq, and those denominations also are split between the north and the south. So we don't have clear statistics about that. That's just an approximate numbers.
Yes, no, that's helpful. At this point, I have one more question, but while I'm asking it, I would love to invite those who've joined, those who are in the audience. Thank you for introducing yourselves. What questions do you have? I'd love to open it up to the audience questions. So please, you can type them in the chat, or you could use the Q&A function at the bottom. I can see questions in either of those places. So while those watching come up with things that they would like to hear about, my question has to do with worship. And you mentioned a permit to be able to, build a worship facility. Again, I was not in Baghdad. I only was in Erbil, and I was in some of the border towns as well. But I was overcome by the robust expression of worship. We went to several services, and sometimes the churches would be small, but it felt like the community that we worshiped with was so fervent in its expression, and I'm just curious, what would you say about the nature of worship? And for those who've not traveled there or who've not had that opportunity, what might we know about the worship of Christians in Kurdistan, but throughout Iraq?
So I'm not sure which churches you went to during your time in the northern Iraq, but I can say some general thoughts about the worship generally in the churches in Iraq, including the Church of St. George Anglican in Baghdad. We still have the opportunity to pray the Lord's Prayer at the church in the Aramaic, which is the language of Jesus. And really, when you are physically there, you feel it. You feel the spirit of the worship. And I believe some other churches do that also. That just reminds us always that this is the land of Christianity. And that's a motivation and inspiration for us to continue doing that, to try. Again, we are not trying to expand at the moment. This is not the moment to expand. We have to know that this is a fact, and we have to deal with it. But now it's time to stick what we have in our hands, so we don't lose what we have already right at the moment. I think I had the opportunity to be part of previously several churches and worships, and because of the work that I do, sometimes I go here and there, and I think every single one is unique for because it's really linked to the authentic Christianity from like 2,000 years ago, and somehow you can still feel that link when you are in the church. I believe you felt that when you were there, but I hope that everybody in the room can have the opportunity to visit that and be part of that worship, and feel how amazing it is to be there.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Well, we have a question from someone. I think that this would be for Abuna Fayez. It's about the medical services. What types of medical services does your ministry provide? But then who are the medical staff that work in the clinic? Are they Christians? Are they Muslim? What types of education do they have?
لكن أيضا من هو الستاف مالتك؟ هل هم مسيحيين؟ هل هم مسلمين؟ شنو هي مؤهلاتهم للعمل بهذه الخدمات الصحية؟ هذا سؤال لك.
وبالبداية المستوصف يعني انفتح بال 2007، كان بوقت الطائفية، القتل الطائفية في العراق، كان هدفه أنه يعطي رسالة سلام ومحبة.
So first of all, the clinic was opened in 2007 in Iraq when there was civil war going on, and the reason behind the opening was we were sending a message of a dialogue and reconciliation and peace and love to the Iraqi people.
كون المستوصف يعالج يعني كل شرائح الشعب العراقي.
Because the clinic does not discriminate and deal the variety of the Iraqi people
بشكل مجاني.
for free.
في السابق لما احنا اسسنا المستوصف كان كل كادر المستوصف يعني يحملون الطابع المسيحي او المسيحية، يعني كانوا جميع مسيحيين.
When we started the clinic, all of the staff, they have this kind of nature of Christianity, and they were Christians.
من أطباء إلى أطباء أسنان، أطباء اعتياديين، ممرضات.
If they are like doctors, dentists, pharmacists, lab, even the like nurses.
اليوم احنا نتكلم عن شيء قبل يعني حوالي قبل 16 سنة بالحدود.
Today we are talking about something started 16 years ago.
بسبب الهجرة، أيضا بسبب الهجرة اليوم دخل على خط الكادر المستوصف البعض من المسلمين.
And because of immigration and losing some of the staff, nowadays we have some of the Muslim staff as well within the clinic.
واحنا يعني مختارينهم اختيار جيد، وصار لهم سنين يعملون معنا.
And we properly picked them to join our clinic, and they have been there for so many years.
هم نفسهم اللي يعملون معنا يعني مستغربين أو متعجبين من طبيعة العمل ومن الأداء ومن العطاء اللي تقدم الكنيسة.
Even those non-Christian staff, they are impressed by the how big is the heart of the church presenting all of those services to the community.
أعتقد أجبت.
I think I've answered the question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Shifting gears a little bit, we have a question about some of the political dynamics. Who in Iraq are potential allies, or are at least possible allies for the Christian community? You know, perhaps they might eliminate political disabilities, you know, so that Christians could practice, you know, our faith tradition more freely.
من هم الشركاء أو الحلفاء اللي تعتقد محتملين بالنسبة للمسيحيين بالعراق؟ للمسيحيين من الممكن أن يتحالفون معهم لكي ما يضمنوا جزء من حقوقهم أو جزء من حياتهم وبقائهم في العراق.
شركاء من داخل
حلفاء
البلد،
سياسيين
حلفاء من داخل البلد، من خارج البلد.
سياسيين من داخل البلد.
لا يوجد سياسيين داخل البلد في الوقت الحالي ممكن الشراكة معهم والثقة والوثوق بهم.
I don't think there are political allies inside Iraq that you can ally with them, but also you cannot trust them.
كل السياسيين في الوقت الحالي اللي يديرون البلد هم يعني لا يملكون الوطنية وجاءوا عن طريق الصدفة يعني.
And all the politicians that they are in high positions in the country, they are not committed to Iraq. They don't have any sense of nationalism, but also what we call them the politician by accident.
إذا كنا نقول هم سبب الفقر وهم سبب الهجرة فكيف أن نثق بهم؟
If we say that they are the cause of the poverty and they are the cause of the immigration, how we can trust them?
Thank you. This is a question about the relationship between Muslims and Christians. What level of cooperation is there between the Christian church and the Muslim community? I know you might have talked about this some already, but this attendee came a little bit late and wanted to hear about those dynamics.
يمكن تكلمنا شوية عن هذا أصلا، بس نريد نعرف الديناميكيات، ما هو مستوى العلاقة بين المسيحيين والمسلمين، كيف ممكن يعملوا مع بعض؟
يعني أيضا نرجع قبل يعني 1400 سنة كانوا المسيحيين هم يعني سكان البلد، وبعد وقبل 1400 سنة جاءهم الإسلام واستطاعوا أن يتعايشوا ويخلوا يسمحوا للإسلام أن يشاركوهم في هذا البلد.
We will say that one more time that 1400 years ago the country was a Christian country, and then Islam came and Christians accepted to share the country peacefully with them.
ولي يعني 1000 يعني فشي من السنة، يعني حوالي 12 قرن 15 قرن بعد ذلك، لحد ما بعد 2003 حسينا أنه هناك سوء بالعلاقة بين الأديان والمذاهب.
And maybe 14 centuries later, and after 2003, we started feeling that there is a bad engaging between each other.
لكنه احنا جيدا نعرف انه سوء هذه العلاقة هي ليست فطرية، هي ليست موجودة اصلا في عقولنا أو في قلوبنا، بل هي نتاج أمور سياسية.
But the good thing to know is that this bad engagement is not authentic within the people's hearts and minds. It's politically driven to be like that.
لهذا بال 2006 تحركنا بشكل سريع مع أصدقائنا من القادة الدينيين الشيعة وقادة الدينيين السنة وقادة الأديان الأخرى، وكان لنا عدة اجتماعات وعدة جلسات وعدة مؤتمرات في سبيل الحفاظ على اللحمة العراقية مجددا.
And that's why in 2006 we start moving toward the leaders of the Sunni, the leaders of Shia, and the leaders of other religions, so we can have a round table and just affirm the relationship with other religions in times of sectarianism.
ونجحنا في إخماد الفتنة هذه.
And we succeeded to put the civil war down.
وأصبحت واضحة أمام الشعب، ولا أعتقد ممكن أن تتكرر لأنه أصبح شيء واضح يعني.
And it's become obvious to people, to civilian, just normal people, that it is politically driven, and I don't think that could be repeated.
Can you, thank you. Can you help contextualize, some of us may be more informed than others, but about the regional geopolitics? We sometimes hear about Iraq being a proxy for some of the ambitions of Iran. Certainly in northern Kurdistan, the dynamics between Turkey and, Kurdish resistance is a dynamic. But can you talk to us about some of the different roles that the region plays in terms of ongoing conflict?
عن السياسات بعض الأحيان نسمع أنه العراق صاير بروكسي يعني تابع لإيران. نسمع أيضا على أطماع تركيا في إقليم كردستان. هل ممكن تخبرنا قليلا عن أو تعرفنا على كيفية هذه الأمور تدار؟
يعني هذا شيء طبيعي عندما يصير ضعف في السلطة اللي تحكم البلد، يعني تنفتح عيون اللي يعني داير مدار هذا البلد. الكل يرغب انه ياخذ جزء من هذا البلد سبب ضعف الحكومات وضعف
That's normal. When there is a weak government is in place, then the ambitions of other countries started to make use of the resources of that country.
يعني نشوف انه 8 سنوات العراق قاتل ايران ولم تستطيع ايران ان تاخذ شبر واحد من العراق. اليوم ايران تستطيع ان تحتل العراق عسكريا بساعتين.
8 years Iraq and Iran war was going on, and they were not able to take 1 inch from Iraq. But we can see nowadays Iran can invade Iraq within 2 hours by their military.
ربما لولا الولايات المتحدة كان يعني إيران الجيش الإيراني هو كان في العراق. يعني
and unless the United States was there, I think the Iranian military would be in Iraq.
ولكن لا ننكر أنه هي مسيطرة على السياسيين العراقيين وعلى الأحزاب العراقية وعلى الاقتصاد العراقي وعلى كل ما هو موجود في داخل العراق.
But we have not to neglect that Iran is in control in the politics, in the security, in the economy, and almost everything in Iraq.
ومن الناحية الأخرى يعني تركيا أيضا لديها أطماع ويعني أغلقت الماء على العراقيين وعلى الزراعة العراقية.
And on the other hand, we know that Turkey has ambitions also in Iraq, and they blocked the water on the agriculture in Iraq by blocking the Tigris.
في سبيل أن تساوم ما بين الموصل وما بين أنه تعطي الماء للعراقيين.
And that's kind of something to negotiate it with the Iraqi from taking Mosul or and then like giving water and back.
يعني هذا ما يجعلنا احنا من يعني يجعل أعدائنا كثيرين ويعني بوضع لا نحسد عليه.
And that leads that we do have a lot of enemies and we are not in a good position.
وضعفنا هو اللي خلى يعني بلدان المجاورة أن يكون إلى يد بالتدخل العراقي وبالشأن العراقي.
And being weak is the reason that the neighboring countries have ambitions in Iraq.
Mm-hmm. That's very helpful. Discouraging and heartening, but disheartening. But thank you, very helpful. I have 2 more questions and then we'll wrap it up very shortly. I know it's late afternoon where you are. Can you tell us a little bit about the demographic of Christians? Are they young? Are they old? Are the young leaving? What's life like for young people and young Christians in Iraq?
تقدر تخبرنا قليلا عن حياة أولا درجة أعمار المسيحيين بالعراق، وبعدين درجة الشباب، هل they يغادرون، هل they يعملون، هل فعالين في المجتمع؟
يعني نستطيع أن نقول أنه الشباب هم حاليا أقل أعدادهم من الدرجة الطبيعية.
We can say that the young adults Christians, they are less than the normal or less than what they meant to be, the numbers.
ولديهم طبعا أسبابهم المقنعة في الهجرة.
And they do have a good reasons for immigration.
أحد الأيام أنا سألت أحد الشباب يعني أنه لماذا تريد أن تهاجر؟ قال لي إذا ما أهاجر هل تستطيع أن تضمن لي عمل وتضمن أماني وسلامتي؟ فقلت له أنا شخصيا ما أستطيع أن أضمن سلامتي.
Well, once I asked a young adult, why would you like to immigrate? And he answered me with a question, and he said, if I stay, would you be able to afford a job opportunity and security for me? And my reply was, I cannot maintain that for myself.
ويعني وبصورة عامة يعني هم الشباب دي يطلعون ثم دي يسحبون يعني أهاليهم، لهذا يعني كخطوة أولى الشباب يطلعون ثم أهالي الشباب.
And as a general case, that the youngs, they leave the country and then they take their families out of the country. But as a first step is the young is the one who are leaving.
يعني هذا ما دا يحصل.
That's what's happening.
لحد هذا الوقت.
Yeah, until now.
Yes, yes. Well, this is the last question from the audience, and then we'll just go to some closing remarks. Given the unsettling setting that you describe, what are the most significant challenges St. George's faces to continue your education and your ministry, the medical component of your service?
بهذه المعطيات الغير مشجعة، ما هي أكثر التحديات اللي سان جورج تواجهها، إذا كان هذا على مستوى المستوصف أو على المستوى التعليمي أو أي مستوى آخر؟
تحديات.
أي تحديات؟
هناك يعني إحنا عندنا تحديات بخصوص يعني حياة المصلين اللي يجونا، أكيد هم متعبين. هاي تحديات. عندنا تحديات حتى في تقديم المساعدة الطبية للآخرين. عندنا تحديات بالتعليم. عندنا تحديات في كل الأمور. وإذا سألتيني لماذا راح أقول لك لأنه كل يعني حكوماتنا على مدى هذه السنين اللي مضت ليسوا مهنيين، فتصدر القرارات بشكل عشوائي.
If you ask me about challenges, I think we do have challenges on serving our worshipers, those people who have been tired. We do have challenges with serving the patients that we receive at the clinic. We do have challenges on the educational level. And if you ask me, why do you have those challenges? I would say that over the last 20 years, we didn't have a qualified government that can deal with all of these various aspects.
تخيلي راح أضحكي كلها.
Yeah, I'll make you laugh. I'll tell you something.
قبل ما تذكر قل وزير التعليم العالي اللي هو المفترض أن يكون ذو يعني مستوى رفيع بالتعليم، هو من الميليشيات، والشهادة اللي يملكها هي مزورة.
The Secretary of Higher Education, who is part of the Ministers' Council, he used to be a member of a militia, but also his degree is a fake degree. He doesn't have qualification. He's not qualified.
هؤلاء يحكمون حاليا، فكيف لا يكون لدينا تحدي؟
Well, those are the ones who are in control now and deciding our destiny. How we would not have so many challenges.
I thought you were going to make me laugh. That makes me want to cry.
كنت أعتقد هذا راح يضحك.
Well, I thought you're going to laugh.
Oh, heavens. Well, how may we pray for you? What closing remarks do you each have? And then we'll talk to Buck just for a few minutes and I'll close us. But what are your closing remarks?
ممكن يكون عندكم إياها. كيف ممكن نصلي لكم وأي ملاحظة أخيرة تحب تنطوها؟
يعني احنا اكيد يعني مع صلواتنا اللي احنا دائما نصليها من اجل حالنا من اجل نفسنا، اكيد نطلب من الجميع ان يشركونا بالصلاة. لكن في نفس الوقت يعني انا يعني اشوف انه المنظمات في الولايات المتحدة ذات تأثير على الحكومة، يعني لهذا دائما يعني احنا نشجع المنظمات في امريكا ان تقف ان تشعر ما يمر به العراقيين وخصوصا المسيحيين، وان تساند المسيحيين وبالتالي تاثر على الحكومه الامريكيه، وبالتالي الحكومه الامريكيه تستطيع ان تاثر.
Well, in addition to that, we pray for the churches in Iraq, but we also ask for your prayers for the church in Iraq. But also we feel that and we see that the institutions, the NGOs in the United States, they have a good impact on the United States government. So an important role of advocating at the US government, and then as a result, the US government will be advocating on the Iraqi government to serve Christianity and the churches in Iraq.
Thank you. And that's the work that we're committed to doing at Churches for Middle East Peace. We say educate, elevate, advocate, that we want people here to know about realities affecting Christians and to know about the ways that we as Americans and our government engages, sometimes very destructively. And then we want to elevate voices like each of yours. And we do that to advocate so that the American policies we have towards the Middle East might be more constructive and might support, the sustainability of the church and Christians, but also human rights and justice. So, yes, I think Buck Blanchard is still in the room with you. Is he there?
Yes.
Yes, I wanted to invite Buck. For those of you who are still with us, Buck has been an executive leader of the Episcopal Church, and I wanted him to have the opportunity as we close to talk a bit. I know he had life-changing experiences in Iraq, and so we asked, as we think about what can we do and what do we do with this information, what types of things can be done. So Buck, please.
I appreciate it very much. So I'm here representing and as co-chair of a small nonprofit organization that's affiliated with the Episcopal Church called Stand with Iraqi Christians. And for anyone who is listening and wants to learn more, there's always information on our website about what we do, and we can help put you in touch with St. George's Church and the work that Sinan and ICC are doing up on the Nineveh Plains. In a nutshell, what we do up there is we talked about what is it that can help Christians find what they need to stay. And in many cases, that's economic. They need work, they need jobs. The wonderful thing about that area is that prior to ISIS coming in, these folks had jobs. They had businesses, they had farms, they had things that they were doing. And in many cases, those businesses were damaged or even destroyed by ISIS. Some of those folks have left, but some of them want to stay. And in order for them to stay, they need to get those businesses back up and running. And so what SWIC does is provide one-time grants to provide the capital to help them get their businesses reestablished. So think about a chicken farmer whose 100,000 chickens were all eaten by ISIS. He didn't have the capital to go out and buy chicks and start his chicken business again, but he knows how to raise chickens because they've been doing it for generations. So we provide the capital to get those first chicks and feed and vaccinations and whatnot, so that he can get his chicken farm back up and running. And it's sustainable because as that farmer becomes older, he's going to pass that business to his children, who will pass that business to their children. And we make that one-time grant to get that business going. And, and they're off to the races. And it's a wonderful model because everyone knows the story about it. You shouldn't give people a fish. You should teach them how to fish. We don't give them a fish or teach them how to fish. We just restock their pond so that they can go out and do what they've been doing forever and want to continue to keep doing for the economic health of their family. So very pleased to have welcomed these gentlemen here in the United States. Very grateful to Churches for Middle East Peace for hosting the webinar. And if you have any other questions about Stand with Iraqi Christians, we're at swic.org. Thank you.
Wonderful. SW
I see.
Iraqi Christians. I see. I'm terrible with acronyms, I know. So I'm glad someone there, Nicole, put it in the chat. So Stand with Iraqi Christians. We're so very grateful for your time. You know, many of the people on the call are donors and supporters of CMEP, and we couldn't do the work that we do of elevating voices like this without you. And our website is www.CMEP, Churches for Middle East Peace.org. And, you know, our work continues, and this motivates us and compels us in the work that we do in Washington, D.C. and talking to our elected officials. So we will continue to have conversations within our churches. We'll continue to mobilize people in terms of advocacy. And we want you to know that we're standing alongside of you and you are not forgotten, that we see you, we hear your stories, and that we're in solidarity with you, that we will pray alongside of you for God to give you strength in the midst of your service and your ministry. So thank you so much, Sinan and Abuna and Bak, for being with us today. Much, much appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Many blessings to you. I hope all the rest of your meetings go well.
Thank you very much. Nice to be with you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.